4.
So my one knock on the list is, and I don't, it's going to come off wrong, but I don't think Magic Johnson should be in the top 5. If you look at like, I know what he did for the league, and I know had won like 3 or 4 assist titles and everything else. But if you look at like stats and like what Magic Johnson actually did on like basketball wise, it's not better than Kobe. It's not better than Shaq. It's not better than Duncan. Probably, like, Duncan, I think, has the same amount of titles or close to. Like, and I'm not saying Magic isn't good, but if you want to like dissect that list, I would actually bump Magic down and bump Shaq and Kobe up.
If that list was made 10 years ago, maybe, but no one plays point guard anymore, right? And that's who they're always comparing him against. Right. But now, essentially Scottie Pippen, LeBron, Kate, all these guys bring the ball up now and they play the same role Magic played. But when he did it, he was the only one who was 6'8", it was amazing. It was never heard of before.
And he was like amazing. He was like this giant who was like a ballerina on the court. And
Showtime.
Yeah, I mean that impact alone, like he reinvented assists. Like he made assists cool. I think that's, but just from what I've seen, because again, it was towards the end of his career is when I started getting into the basketball, and it was right before he left. And then when he came back, I was like, yes, Magic. But it was like he just looked so like fluid out there, like I don't know about his stats, but I'm interested now, Chris. But just the eye test, he looked like a magician out there, like he was on roller skates.
And believe me, he belongs in the top whatever. But I think I don't know what the stats is. I'm sure Kenny can pull it. I think it's like average or 7. I don't know, something like 17 or 18 points a game. Like not that stats is everything, but I don't know if you look at like what Kobe did and what Shaq did and Duncan did. Like titles are probably the same, but the impact in the game is probably more Magic. But if you look at just straight basketball, I'd tend to bump Magic down just a couple spots.
I think he came in.
Thank you.
He came into the league, and I think was Finals MVP. They won the championship his rookie year. I don't know if he was Finals MVP, but
that's insane.
I don't, and really no one does it anyway. But no one makes that big of an impact. So he was from day one. He was one of the best players in the league, and it just snowballed from there. Then the whole Lakers Celtics thing. So I just think he's up on a pedestal. He's always going to be in the top 10. But I agree. I instantly swap him with Kobe if I had to make one change.
I agree with that for sure.
Like changing the game is Jordan then Magic, I would say.
The only other one on here I would kind of mention, and I was not a huge fan of the guy when he played, but when I look at it and kind of try to be fair to him, I think I overlook Duncan a lot.
I think he's the best.
And I don't think, and maybe it's because he was such a quiet personality, because you never heard anything about him, because he was so boringly fundamental, because everything about it, maybe the style of play the Spurs played was so methodical. Like, I feel like he checks every box, but he never registered for me. And when you look at this list, you kind of go, shit, like, could you kind of slide him up a spot or two? Like, are we undervaluing him?
Duncan was the successor to Jordan, and Popovich to fill, like as soon as Jordan's career with the Bulls ended, the Spurs started their run. And at times they played teams or eliminated teams that I was more a fan of. Because, when they won, David Robinson, yes, he finally got a championship. And who's this Tim Duncan, dude? He's unbelievable.
Right.
But, they were boring. There was not, and then they have these 2 foreign players who nobody fucking knows. And they're unbelievable, too. And you're like, who the fuck are these boring gray and black Spurs? and now, like most things, looking back on it, they were, one of the greatest of all time.
And we had just gotten done with, watching Jordan dunk on people and tell them to fuck off to their face. And we had watched Pippen run the floor, and we'd watched Rodman change colors every night in his hair. And that was the team. And now you've got these Euros that make every pass, and this coach that just sits there and goes, run it. And this guy that just banks everything in. And, hardly ever dunks, but fuck, he was good. I mean, and he won them with Robinson. He won them without Robinson. He won them with Ginobili, without Ginobili. Like, it didn't matter. The guy just kept winning.
He won, and Tony Parker was the Finals MVP. Like, he didn't have to be the guy. He just didn't make any mistakes.
Maybe he preferred not to be the guy. Like, he just was there.
Magic Johnson career stats. Thank you, Kenny. Finally providing something.
What's a frequency, Cannon?
19.5 points. 11 assists, 7 rebounds.
But listen, 19, 11, and 7 is unbelievable until you look at like the guys now, which is crazy to think about.
Well, they don't play
the
defense
game's different,
now.
But exactly, yeah, like the game's completely different. But one thing on Duncan, you think about all the stuff we're watching on Jordan about being like now they're talking about being the best leader ever, and like think about the two opposite ways to lead to championships. Duncan. Not saying a word, and Jordan getting in your face, doing whatever he has to do to motivate you, right? So like, and they both
make a free throw.
Almost
Two polar opposites.
Two polar opposites. Ho. I'm gonna start calling people hoes.
I love that line. Make a free throw, ho. That was the best.
Ho. Who said that?
Jordan did to Scott Burrell.
Scott Burrell.
Yeah. Scott Burrell, how you feeling? You want to play today? Make a free throw, ho.
Jesus.
There's been one constant through every episode so far that I laugh at every time I see it, but because you never see this now, or at least they don't show it. Jordan and Pippen were knocking back Miller Lights at the end of every game on the training tables. If you catch it, if they show another one, and of course in their hand it looks like this little can.
I know.
Cigar. Miller Lite crushing them after every game.
I can't believe Miller Lite hasn't secured the rights to just make that a new commercial. I mean, they're all just sitting around drinking Miller Lite. Like, that's what you do. You usually like open 2 at a time because they go down so quick. Tim Duncan stats. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Sure.
19 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists.
Wow.
30.
I'm shocked by that.
38 minutes a game.
Doesn't have that. Sorry.
The big fundamental. How many of those points were Banks that he called?
All of them.
All of them.
1,392 games. Do we want Kobe's stats? 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. So yeah, overall, I mean, it's hard to argue anyone off of this list, right?
Yeah, just the order. I don't think I was trying to think of someone that was left off, but I don't think there's anybody in there.
If you guys flip through the rest of the list, it's way weighted heavily towards the more common era of players. Like, listen, I think Dwayne Wade's amazing, but I want to say he was in the top 20. Like, he was really, really, really high. But there are other players who are like, as you're going through the list, like a Dirk Nowitzki, who, completely changed the way you look at a 7-footer. But does he replace anyone in that list? Probably not.
No.
Right. But let's look at Dirk's stats. Kenny, come on.
Was Dirk the first Euro that really kind of reached superstardom?
Yeah, I think so. Because he was.
Yeah, him or Parker.
I think it was more so. Kevin, I think it was more so nobody saw a guy that big who didn't just play on the
stroke.
Ball.
Yeah. The stretch 4 role, right?
I agree, but looking back, look at this Kukoc footage that we're seeing now on the Bulls. Like I know he wasn't as good as Dirk, obviously, but he was pretty darn good.
He was awesome
when he came into the league. Jordan beat him up mentally, but he made it out alive.
I like the footage of Kukoc now, kind of overweight, sitting in his chair, and he's like, I don't know what they're talking about. I didn't know why they hated me.
I mean, the fans think I'm good, but what the fuck do they know?
And it's the coverage of sports is so different now because I had no idea. They went out and they targeted Kukoc. Like, all right, we're going to go beat the hell out of us two, me and you.
That was awesome.
So cool.
I think it's worse because it wasn't even what Kukoc said. It was just that the Bulls wanted to bring him in, and so they took offense to that. Like, you think this guy's good enough to be on our team? We'll show you you're a fucking idiot for a GM.
Yeah. You're not going to give Pippen more money, and you're going to go talk to this guy? Okay.
Yeah, we'll punk him.
I'm gonna go show you who we are.
We're gonna tie his shoestrings together in warm-ups.
Yeah. Damn, they went after him.
Yeah, he just seemed like lost. What was he, like 2 for like 11? Like he just didn't play really.
No, they crushed him.
I'm sure we'll talk a bunch about the Jordan thing, but can you imagine that they've been sitting on this footage since 1998?
That's amazing. I was going to tell you guys, there's an article, and I'll send it to you, from Cigar Aficionado in 2017. And first off, the most intriguing part is that Jordan says he smoked 6 cigars a day.
Break it down.